Super Bowl with that one.
There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl.
And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
Hello and welcome back, Bucs fans, to a brand new edition of the Cannon Fire Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. Joining us on the show today as we catch up on the latest headlines from Tampa Bay Buccaneers training camp from Tampa Free Press and also WDAE. The legendary Rock Riley returns to the Cannon Fire Podcast. Rock, I wish we had a better story. Well, I don't want to say a better story, but a better feeling story to kick off our show today. But the most pressing news regarding the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from training camp after today is defensive rookie outside linebacker, 4th round pick, David Walker has torn his ACL. Happened on Friday, but we found out today that he will undergo surgery and he will miss the entirety of the 2025 season. So before we dive into everything else, I wanted to get your thoughts on that because this is, again, I think just changes the tone and the outlook for a lot of people when we talk about getting through the rest of the preseason. It almost feels like you have to survive the rest of the preseason after an injury like this.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I was thinking the same thing today. Honestly, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions like, what is it like? Who's standing out? This and that. And I was thinking about it. In the end, you want to try to just get out healthy, and you're going to improve. You should. Otherwise, you're a bad team as the season rolls on with the defense, with the offense, because Baker Mayfield said, can't just do what you did last year and expect to score 29 points and a half a game. It doesn't work like that. You got to improve. But you know what? There's a way to look at it like you don't know. Maybe he was going to be a stud and a big contributor. Maybe he could have been like a JTS. You don't know. He's a rookie. So they drafted him that high for a reason. It was an area that they needed to upgrade, no doubt about it. Servassier Dennis, an inside linebacker, has really, really come along nicely. And Levante David, so far, doesn't look like father time. I'm watching him in the drills. They give him a lot of days off. They're going to do the same thing with Mike Evans to keep him fresh. So when you're there, it's not as big of a deal as if you're just looking at it on paper like, oh, woe is me. What does this do to the defense? But there's no doubt about it. And Evan and Rhett, I was watching this. I was in the end zone. It was right towards it was the last period. It was at the end. It was 11 on 11, kind of a pile. He went down, and it wasn't any big thing. It wasn't rushing over. It wasn't bringing the stretcher. And it was like, okay, oh, who's that down? Oh, that's the rookie. Just watching. He got up. He walked off. And I'm like, oh, something to keep an eye on. Now, there was a little bit of a limp, and then as he got closer to the building, he walked in. He walked in. And then we asked Bowles, and he goes, well, too early to tell. We'll have an update. And then there was a day off, so you didn't know. And then when they came back, it was like, well, we're still doing more tests. So you still didn't really know. And then when you get the news, whoa, it's out for this season. It just goes to show you, and I'm sure you've seen players over the years where they might not even get hit, and they're out for a year with a leg injury like that. So yes, it will hurt. But let's see if Servassier Dennis and a couple of other guys at that spot step it up a little bit now.
Yeah, I mean, I think really quick when you're looking at it, it sucks for David Walker, obviously, right? Like that's who I feel for the most. Dude was a 4th round pick. Very productive college player, obviously not playing against the best level of competition, right? There was a reason he was a 4th round pick, a little bit undersized for a pass rusher, but that sack production matters, right? That's what got him drafted, and that's what the Bucs were hoping for, right? They were hoping for a little bit of pop, He was gonna be, come off the bench. He wasn't gonna be a starter, for them, but a situational guy, on a 3rd and long when you need to get to the quarterback, maybe he's somebody that ends up working out for you that way, So yeah, it does suck for him a lot, right? And we were talking about this, before we pressed, live. He's gonna be next year. He's going to be a 26-year-old because he was older, right? He was an older player. He's going to be 26 years old with no NFL experience and coming off a torn ACL. So really a tough draw for David Walker there and for the Buccaneers, who, like I said, he figured to be in some sort of plans for this defense now. They're going to have to rely on, basically, when you look at the list on paper, just strictly the outside linebackers. It's very similar to last year's room, right? I mean, it's very similar. You got Hassan Reddick there, and that's obviously a big one, right? That's he's going to play a major role for this team. They gave him $14 million, so he's going to play a pretty major role. But you look at it, and it's pretty much the same group, right? They brought back Anthony Nelson. You're gonna have Diaby there. Chris Braswell's back for his second season, and then obviously guys like Jose Ramirez, Marquise Watts, who we had actually talked about on our show last week as a potential training camp battle for that potential maybe last pass rusher spot. Now there's maybe both of them end up making the roster. Who knows how the preseason unfolds? But yeah, it really sucks for David Walker. Sucks for it hurts the Buccaneers' depth overall, the pass rush group, and hopefully some other guys can step up, just like Rock said, in his absence there.
Yeah, and that's a roster spot that really just opened up for those guys on the bubble, like you had mentioned there, Evan, Jose Ramirez, Marquise Watts. Going to be interesting to see just how many reps they get throughout the course of the preseason. And again, Chris Braswell, we talked about his situation on the last episode, but I think that he's going to need to be even hungrier this season. It
Right.
felt like the Bucs were going to be in a position to not lean on David Walker because he is a rookie. But I think they were very eager to see what he had to offer, and that may have been at the expense of Chris Braswell playing time, but he certainly has a lot on his plate headed into the season. I'm excited to see how he handles it. In other injury news, it's been, before we really dive into who's shined and who's been off to a slow start from training camp, I just wanted to talk about the injuries because, again, I think an injury like this gets everybody a little extra cautious, and it kind of makes you focus more on who's actually practicing, who's just hurt, who's actually hurt, and who's just being cautious. So when it comes to today's practice, DJ Williams, Marcus Banks, wide receiver Cameron Johnson, and tight end Cade Otton did not practice. Coach Todd Bowles addressed it afterwards. He said a few guys have pulled their hamstrings, and he is being cautious and holding them out for now. Now, this coaching staff has done this with guys in the past, and I think that they know what they have here. They know that this is the time of year that guys will cramp up as well. So you want to be cautious in getting them onto the field, but you also would like to see them get some meaningful reps here while, this is where iron sharpens iron, basically. And getting into some of the performances from training camp, Rock, it sounds like the defense, specifically this secondary, has been really lighting it up, and that is where most of the headlines are coming out of this first week of training camp. Today being the first day in pads, guys all over the place are making plays from the sounds of it.
It has been like that. The defense has been better overall. There are some days where the offense is a little bit better. I think on the first day with the pads, the offense, it was sloppy. Baker didn't have any interceptions, but even Payne Durham afterwards goes, we're just trying to get used to the pads on. Like everybody knows it's super hot. Antoine Winfield sat down the other day and he goes, I was going to say it's a hot one out here, but everybody knows that. So there's no need to say that. But it is the first time since the last game that they put on the shoulder pads, all the pads. And when you have all that sweat, it's like something like, what, a 40 pound, 35, 40 pound. I mean, there's a difference. And so the offense has been they've been behind a little bit to the defense. I like that because the defense to me is going to be the key. I think the offense is going to be okay. It isn't like I've seen any mistakes, even with Josh Grizzard, even with the live call-in when he's just calling. There's no script. He's calling it right into Baker's headphones. It looks like that's coming along because that was one of my concerns. And again, I know it's early, but the defense has been so much better. There hasn't been the cushion from the DBs. They're right up on the receivers. Bowles said that was one thing that he was going to do, and I've noticed that. I've seen guys taking chances. Every defensive player that I have talked to has reiterated to me ball hawks, strip sacks, turnovers. That's in their head. So far, early in camp, I've seen more of that from the defense.
Well, and it's these young guys, too. It's, J.J. Roberts, an undrafted rookie, has really been dominating the headlines. You hear about Jacob Parrish getting a lot of important roles from that nickel, or a lot of important looks from that nickel corner position. He's making plays. He got a would-be sack on Baker Mayfield in the 11-on-11 period. So not only is Todd Bowles plugging in these young guys, but he's sending them after the quarterback. They are getting sacks. They are making plays. And really, a lot of them are coming away with the football. That ball hawk mentality that you had just mentioned. Evan, you and I both know after covering last season how desperate this Buccaneers defense has been for takeaways. Guys that can, disrupt the play and ultimately come down with the football. There's been a lot of that from a lot of these guys in this secondary. And again, a lot of it seems to be coming from the young guys, which is a great sign.
Yeah, and you're right. We talked about that. I felt like almost every week, right, about coming up with a big takeaway. The All Bucs offense was great, right, but help out the offense even more, right? Come up with a big takeaway, flip the momentum of the game. There was countless games where the Bucs had lost, and you're like, man, if they could have just got, just made one splash play, right? The defense just makes one splash play here and there. Maybe that changes things. And I mean, Bowles talked about it very early on in the offseason that like they needed to get their hands on the football a whole lot more in 2025. And I think that's what they set out to do, when they targeted guys in the draft. I mean, Benjamin Morrison, before his injury, he was a ball hawk. They're for the Fighting Irish there at Notre Dame. So Jacob Parrish, another guy who can get his ball, his hand on the football. And I think the strip sack thing that can, whatever, right? Those aren't going to happen as often. The interceptions for me, though, that's something to where they got to get those numbers up. It's simply not, it wasn't good enough last year, and whether it was the ball going right through guys' hands or just not making the play when it needed to be made or not being in the right position. And sure, some, luck is involved when it comes to interceptions, but that interception total's got to go up. If this defense wants to improve a lot, obviously the sack totals and everything, but the takeaways, that's got to be something that's got to be improved upon, or we're going to be seeing a lot more like it was last year, where there's going to be some times that the defense just can't seem to get off the field, right? It's these 5, 6, 7 minute drives where teams are kind of, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Teams are just dinking and dunking their way down the field, picking up 5 yards here, 6 yards there, 4 yards there, and then all of a sudden they're in the red zone, and next thing you know, the ball's in the end zone, right? That Dallas game really reminds me of that, where the Bucs just couldn't really come up with that big play on defense, and that's something I think the Bucs are really going to be paying attention to. So it's good that early on in training camp, you're sort of seeing that ball hawk mentality being established there.
As we continue to talk about the defensive side of the football here, I think it's ironic that when you look at this roster, you look at who's available, and I know it's still early on in camp. We've got an entire preseason for things to kind of make their way down to the final 53, but it's pretty funny to me that it seems like on the defensive side of the ball with the injuries to, David Walker, right now it feels like the deepest part of this defense is the secondary, which headed into this season was such a major concern. And yes, it's camp. We are barely through the shortened t-shirts period, so I don't want to get too excited. A lot of rookies, a lot of young talent that they're going to be relying on this season, but some promising depth nonetheless. Rock, I wanted to get your opinion on a guy like Bryce Hall, who, again, when we talk about people in the secondary who are making an impact, a lot of people overlooked Bryce Hall simply because he just missed the entire 2024 season. He's in the Buccaneers lineup. He's slated as the number 3 corner, goes down week 1 and misses the entire year. He's come back, and he's another one of these guys who has just been showing up and making plays, and that's really all you can ask for at this point.
I am so glad you brought him up because I talked to him and I got him for this Saturday show off to the side, just me and him. Only problem is you got to wait because he goes over to the jugs machine and he is over there the longest, still in the heat, working on his game. Came over though, big smile. Said he feels 100%, loves the fact that he was here last year, even though after he got injured, but he knows this
Mhm.
defense. And he's not old, but he's also got some experience. I think he is I think there you go. I think that's a name that you're going to see and you're going to be like, oh, I heard that on the Can of Fire podcast with Rhett and Evan. I remember that from that podcast because I think he's underrated. I really do. And he feels good. He knows the defense. He's making some plays. That's a good one.
Well, he was one of them, sort of bargain bin free agents that I think the Bucs were pretty excited about, when it came to last year. Still fairly young, it's not like this guy's a 33-year-old journeyman, he's still fairly young. So I think the Bucs were pretty excited about him, and he goes down week one, and he's out for the entire season. So you don't really get a true look at him. So yeah, that's definitely somebody, especially if maybe a guy, they drafted two rookies, right? Jacob Parrish, Benjamin Morrison. We've seen, especially at Tampa Bay, right? Rookies on day two in the secondary when you got Carlton Davis and Sean Murphy Bunting and Jamel Dean and Mike Edwards and all these guys, sometimes there's going to be a lot of growing pains, right? So these guys might take some time to get ready. A guy like Bryce Hall might be able to step in there instead of throwing Jacob Parrish or Benjamin Morrison to the Wolves there. A guy like Bryce Hall with some experience, already knows this defense, just like Rock said. He was here last year. Just because he didn't play doesn't mean he wasn't here. He spent the entire training camp learning the defense. He knows it. I think that could be pretty beneficial too to help out those rookies. And I also think like he's not just going to be there as a mentor. I think he can be a pretty solid player for them.
One of the other big names from Monday's practice on the defensive side of the ball. This will be the last defensive back I want to highlight, but it is Christian Izien, who is headed into his third season as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. And it's pretty important to note that Todd Bowles said after practice today, point blank at the podium, that Christian Izien has made the team. You typically don't announce who has made the final 53 before the month of August, but Todd Bowles made it a point to basically pay the ultimate compliment to Christian Izien here. He said that he's the same guy day in and day out. He praised his consistency, and that consistency has ultimately led to him carving out a role for himself in this secondary. Again, another young, gritty player that, as time goes on, seems to be a really good fit for this Todd Bowles defense, but I'm excited to see just how big of a role he's going to have this upcoming season. You want to hope that they don't lean on him too much just because of how packed that safety room is. But you got to think as well that he has really paid his dues and is going to make some noise this season. I'm excited to see what Christian Izien can do.
All right, so another one. I'm not here dropping names, but I got him off to the side, and he was great. He was like, here's another guy. He's like in his prime, just not that, you know, experience because he knows the system, he knows the players, but he's also still young and he's gotten better. And he was one of the guys specifically talking about ball hawk. I want to get to the ball. We got to get interceptions. He was also telling me how comfortable he is and happy to have Hassan Reddick here because they're two Rutgers guys. They were on the same team. They know each other. I had forgotten about that. And then he was talking about what Hassan Reddick has meant and having him here. And he's loving the defense right now. So, no, that's another one. And Bowles, you're right. I've never heard a coach like on what day, this early in camp,
Yeah.
just say that about a player. So again, we are really putting this defense over. I didn't
know.
think we put them over this much. I mean, they're looking good at this point, and you're bringing up Bryce Hall and Izien, and you got to bring up Tyke Smith. He is the real deal. It's amazing. He looked good last year, but the steps he has taken and how he looks now, I think he is just a better standout so far.
I mean that's pretty good news, to hear about Tyke Smith. Obviously, played nickel mostly for the Buccaneers last year. Is going to be playing mostly safety with Antoine Winfield Jr. this season. So definitely good news there. And I mean, it's going to be nice for look, Jordan Whitehead was okay last year, battled through some injuries and stuff, but Antoine Winfield wasn't himself last year either. He'd be the first one to admit that. But it's going to be nice, when Winfield has that good, that running mate that they can sort of feed off of each other. I think it changes both guys, right? And I think Winfield, it's kind of like Levante David. Like I feel like playing next to Winfield almost makes whoever's playing with him better. I think just Antoine Winfield's when he's on and healthy, he's that good. So, and all indications are that Antoine Winfield Jr. is 100% healthy, and he was barely healthy for like the entire season last year. Like he got banged up at week 1, and that week 1 game. Man, we mentioned week 1 a lot. I mean, Bryce Hall got injured in that game. Servassier Dennis got hurt in that game, and Antoine Winfield Jr. got hurt in that game. So that took a lot out. But yeah, Tyke Smith, good. And Christian Izien, I mean, look, the Bucs obviously really like his versatility. Can play a little bit of nickel, can play a little bit of safety. Started off his career hot, as an undrafted free agent. I think he had 2 interceptions in his first 2 games or something like that against the Vikings and the Bears, something like that. So, yeah, he's a guy who is going to want to take the ball away, and hopefully he's part of the solution there for the Bucs in order to accomplish that. And you are right, we are really putting over the defense. And look, it's training camp, right?
Yeah.
So it's at the end of the day, they can look great in practice all they want. They got to go out there on the field, in Atlanta and prove it, right? They got to do that in a little over a month. So that's what really matters. But I mean, still positive signs here.
You got to get the people going, man. And as a fan, this is the type of stuff that I want to hear coming out of training camp. I don't want to hear that these guys are struggling. Before we get to the other side of the football here, there are some big stories on offense. I want to talk about and really just highlight this outside linebacker room one more time. And let's just talk about this pass rush and where it is right now. With David Walker going down, this is a rookie. This was a rotational guy at best, but we were excited to see what he had to offer. I want to pose the question to both of you, and Evan, you can take this one first. How do we feel about this pass rush headed into the 2025 season? I will say, Hassan Reddick, so far so good, I suppose. At least he showed up to camp, unlike Randy Gregory. So, he's showing up to camp.
That's a play. He's already had a better Bucs career.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's put the helmet on. So, we're a few steps ahead in that regard. So he's showing up. He's seemingly in shape. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder. He had a big-time sack, I think, today in 11-on-11. So, he's showing up as you would hope. And I think that if he comes as advertised for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush this season, they'll be okay. I think they'll be slightly better than they were last year. But if he doesn't, then I think there's 1,000 questions there. Evan, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on where they are right now with David Walker going down.
Yeah, I'm glad that we asked this question because it is something that I think I might have overlooked a little bit, like throughout the summer. Summer comes, there's not as much football, this and that. You don't really think about things, and then once David Walker goes down, you're starting to look at like who the Bucs actually have in these spots. It's like I said, it's quite similar to a room last year that I felt was just not good enough, right? And to me, that was like my number one thing for the defense coming into the offseason. Like I was like, they got to improve this pass rush because I'm one of the people that I think if you improve the pass rush, everything around you gets a little bit easier, right? The quarterback doesn't have much time. He's going to make some bad decisions or he's going to get strip sacked, whatever it may be. Even if he just gets hit, it's going to affect him in some way. And the Bucs just consistently did not do that well enough in 2024. And they're playing some darn good quarterbacks in 2025. So they're going to have to do that at times if they want to have success. And I didn't think the pass rush was good enough. So you go out and you go to free agency and, yeah, everybody, Trey Hendrickson and this and that. And, all the big names, right? And whatever, right? Those were never very realistic. But you find Hassan Reddick, okay? And you're kind of taking a bet on Hassan Reddick that he needs a bounce back. And it's a 1-year deal, so he's going to be a free agent, right? So it's an audition. You're hoping you get this Hassan Reddick from before last year. But if you get what if maybe, and I understand weird circumstances with Hassan Reddick. This time last year, Hassan Reddick's whole situation was very, very strange. And that probably threw off some things, right? But if Hassan Reddick is maybe just starting to slow down in his career, he's 30 over 30 years old now. It's gonna happen. If he starts to slow down, I really worry that this room is just too similar to last year. And if guys like Yaya Diaby, let's say he has a similar year that he did last year, not terrible, but like the sack production wasn't where you wanted it to be, right? The pressure numbers were good, the sacks weren't there. And then you have Chris Braswell, who, you know, was basically a developmental guy for them. That's where I worry that the pass rush, if I think they're banking a little bit too much on Hassan Reddick and Yaya Diaby, and I question the depth. You know, Anthony Nelson's a fine rotational player, but that's pretty much all he is. I think you can't have him starting, 70% of the snaps for you. And now with David Walker going down, I'm not saying David Walker was gonna, just like Rock talked about, earlier. We don't know. David Walker wasn't gonna come in here and get 10 sacks. Okay, he was a fourth round pick, but he was I think a player who could give you a different look and maybe a little bit of a boost in some energy, some a little bit of just fire there. Now they don't have that, and yeah, so I am a little bit concerned about their pass rush, but I do think it'll be improved. I just wonder how much improved, because again, in my opinion, it's a room that needed a lot of work.
You know what? That is a very honest assessment, and it's also the worst case scenario. That is,
Yeah.
Reddick's not going to be good. Yaya's not going to be any better. Braswell's going to be like he is. So that would have to be all three.
Yeah, and I'm not rooting for it, but
no,
it's
I know
definitely
you're
plausible.
not, but no,
It's
that
plausible.
could. You're
Yeah.
right, and where I do agree with you is that, boy, there is a lot riding on Hassan Reddick.
Mhm.
He's got to be what and he was prior to last year. Look at his numbers. But you're right, that's what they're banking on. So even if I think it's hard to say, like, okay, it's hard to get two edge rushers that are really, really good. Is there usually a third guy that is that good too? That a lot of teams don't have that.
Right.
They do have two. Bucs really have had none. Yaya really hasn't been the guy. So Yaya has the first couple of days. Oh my God. If they were counting sacks, they stopped, they can't hit. Yaya would have set the record for sacks. His get off is so much quicker. He's worked on some things. And Reddick looks good, but again, that's a good point. And Braswell looks better. He worked on his body, and it looks like he's not having to think. He also looks better. So there's two ways that we could look at it, like, wow, Hassan's he's going to be really good like he was. Yaya got a lot better. Oh, and now Braswell's good. That would be the best case.
Yeah.
The worst case is what you say. All three are nothing, and then it's going to be bad. So even if we get somewhere in the middle, it's going to be better. Maybe Bowles doesn't have to blitz. He says, I can't keep blitzing all the time. That opens up things in the back end. That's why we saw receivers running wild. It does all start up front. So that is the key. I think that's the key to the Buccaneers' success. Getting the pressure, it always starts up front.
Yeah, and I know we kind of talked exclusively about the edge rushers there, but we'd be remiss if we didn't mention some of these big dogs in the middle. Vita Vea voted number 76 in the top 100 NFL players of 2024, or maybe 2025. I don't remember if they do the current year for that list, but
I think it's 2024. Because I think it's based on the previous season.
That's what I thought so too. But number 76, Big Vita Vea, obviously in there. I'm not banking on Logan Hall to develop too much more and become a game wrecker. He did have a good practice today, but who I am banking on, the best ability is availability, and I am very excited to see Kalijah Cansey. They've made it clear that the goal is for him to play in all 17 games this upcoming regular season. I don't know how realistic it is given his injury history, but I do know one thing, that when he is on the field, he's just a monster, and I'm excited that between him and Vita Vea, hopefully he can provide a little bit of relief for the guys on the edge, maybe open some windows to get after the quarterback. That is a big thing this defense needs to hone in on. But let's talk about the other side of the football. We are exactly 30 minutes into the show, and it is time to talk about the offense. We've got some headlines regarding our beloved Baker Mayfield at the quarterback position. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have reworked his contract for the 2026 season. This write-up from SI.com, Madison Williams. The Buccaneers reworked Baker Mayfield's contract for next season. Adam Schefter reported on Monday that Mayfield is now guaranteed $30 million next year, when he was previously guaranteed nothing. He now has financial security for the next 2 NFL seasons. His current annual salary is $33.33 million, which ranks 19th among NFL quarterbacks, if you would believe that or not. The 2026 season will mark the final year of Mayfield's current contract with the Bucs, and he is set to become a free agent in 2027. Rock Riley, between this gesture today and Jason Light's comments last week about Baker Mayfield and how much this organization still very much loves him as the guy to be QB1, what do you think the future holds for Baker? Is he pretty much our guy until he isn't at this point? And I think that this time next year, we should probably have an announcement on another contract extension, maybe?
He's going to break the bank. He is going to break the bank. And there's two ways that I look at this. It's like, Brady never took the most amount of money. He is going to have a record contract. And when that happens, it's hard to spread enough. There's more money around. That's the only thing. But here's the thing. Oh my God. If you thought they loved him then, they love him even more. There's not. So, and he just he was doing an interview with this Pete Prisco from CBS, and he just mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm guaranteed for 2026. Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, he mentioned it. Jason Light didn't even mention it. So they had already done this. They love it. So it all comes down to if he has another big year, even bigger year, he is going to command so much money. And from Glazers all the way down, they love him. They're not going to look for another quarterback. Baker knows his best spot is here. He loves it here. So Baker loves it here. Bucs love him here. If he has a big year, cha-ching, 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 cha-ching.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, either way, no matter what type of season Baker Mayfield has, whether it's good, great, bad, ugly, he's going to be here in 2026. That's what this guarantees, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
before, the Bucs could have easily gotten out of it after this season.
Correct.
If things went horribly wrong and they're looking elsewhere, they could have gotten out of it. Now, you're probably not doing that with when you have fully guaranteed for a following year. So he's definitely the quarterback for 2025 and 2026. Now, will he be beyond? I would guess probably because, I actually think, Rhett said, oh, this time next year, going to be talking about a Mayfield extension. I actually think it's going to be even earlier. I think they're going to try and get that done around that free agency period, sort of, just to get that. I do expect them to do it, as long as, the wheels don't fall off and anything unexpected, happens. But I would think it's going to happen. And Rock, yeah, you're right. It's gonna be a lot of money. It's gonna be the biggest contract that the Bucs have given out to a quarterback in ever, really. So,
well, and let's not forget too. I mean, the list of free agents that's going to come up every single year. I think the most pressing one coming up for 2026 is going to be right tackle Luke Goedeke.
yeah.
And when you look at the deals across the NFL, especially for right tackles, Luke Goedeke is a guy who is licking his chops right now, looking to see.
He'll do well. Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's going well.
Rashawn Slater,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's right or left, but he just got paid. So yeah, Goedeke will do well. Zyon McCollum's also a free agent. Look, we know corners get paid, right? And I know the Buccaneers are interested in an extension with him. I think he sort of wants to go out there and improve himself, maybe make a little bit more money. So yeah, obviously the Bucs. Look, Baker Mayfield's not a free agent after this season, but we do think that the Bucs will be looking. He'll be eligible for an extension, so we do think the Bucs will be looking to do that here. Assuming again he has a good season, I would assume that they're going to want to lock him up, not have to worry about after the 2026 season. We don't know who their quarterback is. I don't think they want to do that.
Well, that's the big thing too. Is not only do you lock him up, but I think that if you get it done early, it gives you more opportunity to reallocate those funds and really see what kind of spending power you have left over.
The cap's only going to be going up, so each deal signed is going to be bigger than
and you can make his cap hit, for that upcoming season. If you've got guys you want to re-sign, they can make it happen. This Buccaneers front office is no stranger to doing magic. But talking about the offensive side of the football, again, sluggish start when it comes to putting the pads on, but a player who has had no shortage of highlight plays so far. You love to hear this, man. The first-round pick, wide receiver Emeka Egbuka, is having a very strong camp. He is getting praise from all over the place, whether it is Mike Evans, his teammates, Chris Godwin, or anybody on this Buccaneer coaching staff. Everybody has got a lot of great things to say about his maturity, his football IQ, and the way that he has just kind of stepped up and stepped into this role, no matter what it's going to be in this Buccaneers offense. He said, quote, "My entire life, ever since I've been playing sports, I have never needed a external motivation. There is just something innate in me that makes me drive with everything just a little bit more. I am an overachiever. I am a perfectionist to the nth degree, but I think part of that has led me to get here. Just keeping the same mindset, not getting complacent, and hopefully I can hang on to that mindset and chase that for years to come." It's hard to not be a big Emeka Egbuka fan right now. I'm curious to see the role he has headed into the season, but with the injury troubles we know have existed in this wide receiver room before, and Chris Godwin, his status still kind of up in the air. Man, how do you feel about Egbuka right now, basically, is what I'm trying to ask you, Rock.
He's going to have a bigger role than I anticipated, that we all anticipated. We didn't think he could be a go-to guy, and he's going to be. Baker Mayfield trusts him. The way he gets up, the way he high points, it's also his legs coming in and out of the breaks. Like his routes are so crisp. And again, I talked to him. I'm like, well, what's in the water at Ohio State with wide receivers? He was behind guys. When he comes up to you and you talk to him, what is he, 21 or 22 years old? It feels like you're talking to someone 32 years old that's been in the league. Incredible, man. Incredible. And Baker, not just like being a homer or pumping him up. He's like, he can go inside, outside. There was the practice the other day, and I'm in the ends and I'm watching. He juked out two defenders. I mean, he's got some moves. He almost broke their ankles. It looked like he was going in, out, in, and then he still got yak and he went 7 yards over there. And he's just, and then he was, so I said, what about Chris Godwin? And he's like, Godwin has been picking up a shirt. He's picking up a towel for him. And he's like, wait, I'm the rookie. I'm supposed to be doing that for you. Godwin has been so helpful to him. The only thing is his sleep. He's rooming with Tez Johnson, and Tez Johnson snores every single night. But other than, no, in all seriousness, we were talking about this media that's covering, watching, like when Chris Godwin came in from Penn State, and you're like, wow, man, he really, the way he carries himself, the way he looks, he's ahead of Godwin. Now, I know, if they haven't even played a game yet, but he's better than advertised. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, and I think everything we had seen pre-draft and post-draft when I had asked some people about their thoughts and a pro comp on the pick, and Chris Godwin came up a lot, just about just play style, but I think Chris Godwin also comes up when it comes to demeanor, right, and character and how you carry yourself, like you said, and the type of person you are in that locker room, and obviously the Buccaneers value that. Obviously they want good football players, but they clearly value that a whole lot as well. So yeah, I think it's obviously important. It's good for Emeka Egbuka to get off to a good start here, because I mean, just like you said, Rock, it seems that he's going to be playing. Could be this team's basically wide receiver too, right, to start the season, because we don't know if Chris Godwin is going to be 100% healthy, to start the season. And if he's not, well, then when is he coming back? Is it week 2? Is it week 3? Is it week 5? You don't really know with these things. And I also think the Bucs are in a very, not a very specific situation where they don't have to rush Chris Godwin. There's no need for, oh man, we have nobody, so come on, we got to get him out there. I don't really think that's the case. So they're not going to rush him along, and I think they're just going to see what they have in Emeka Egbuka, and obviously they must have liked something because they invested a lot in him, right? And look, the decision to draft a wide receiver at 19th overall, is it the smartest team building decision? Probably not. But when you're looking at it this way, if they didn't have Emeka Egbuka right now, if you're looking at, well, if Chris Godwin misses a couple games, you're going to have Jalen McMillan as your number 2. Okay, well, we know Mike Evans is prone to miss a game or two. Jalen McMillan missed a couple games last year. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a wide receiver room that the depth is kind of watered down quickly. So not saying that you drafted Emeka Ibuka for depth. You obviously think one day he can be a wide receiver one, or at the very worst a wide receiver two. But it's good that he's showing off his skills, and hopefully can see him a good bit in the preseason. Even though, again, with Godwin's injury, it's a tough balance, right? You don't, if you think Ibuka's going to play a big role for you, you don't want to risk him to injury too much by playing him in preseason. At the same time, he's a rookie and he's got to get those reps, so it's tough to balance that.
Rocky had mentioned Tez Johnson briefly, and I wanted to really talk about some of these bubble guys in the wide receiver room. Again, names like Cameron Johnson, Trey Palmer, Tez Johnson. These guys are getting reps at punt return, kick return. They're also trying to make some noise on the offensive side of the football. But with things developing the way that they are, do you have any one guy that you think could be the odd man out, or how do you see the bottom of this wide receiver room shaping up? Because there's a lot of talent here.
That is, you know what? That is a real good question. I was just thinking about that today because Tez Johnson, like he had a slow 40 time, but he looks really fast getting open. And when we talked to Bucky Irving, his former teammate, and we said, what do you think about him being here? He goes, he gets open. But there you go. It's football. It's not track. He also has been a returner, OTAs, mini camp. They're kind of counting on him. Baker likes him. He has looked really, really good. Sterling Shepard, he's that veteran. You kind of know what you're getting. He's not getting any quicker. I thought Raheem Jarrett maybe, and he had one good practice. I don't know, like you said. And the thing about it, Jalen McMillan, is he going to really take the next step? Now, he had a couple of drops. There was one that wasn't that good. And again, so you don't know. You don't know. So you're right. If you look at it on paper, some people are like, oh my God, they got a lot of wide receivers. They're talented. Cam, what's his name? Cameron, he was, yeah,
Cameron
he was
yeah.
out today. He had a beautiful touchdown pass the other day. And I'm like, oh, I didn't talk about him. Maybe he's somebody in the mix. So I think the drop off after, yeah, it's and Godwin has not even run.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when a guy is rehabbing and trying to come back, you look at the far field, he's down with a trainer one-on-one. He hasn't even run yet. He just walks. We hadn't even seen him. He finally came out. He wears his sweatpants. So I don't know how he could be even ready for game number one. So after Mike Evans, really right now, it's Emeka Ibuka. He looks that good. Jalen McMillan. Trey Palmer actually had a good practice 2 days ago. I thought last year he would take a step up, and he didn't. So there's a drop-off after that, and they all seem to be kind of bunched right there.
Before we wrap things up here on the offensive side of the ball, I did want to talk about some transactions. The Buccaneers signed some more depth along the offensive line, and this is an interesting topic as well. We'll kind of approach this like we did the pass rush. Overall, here at the end of it, I'm going to throw the question to both of you of how you're feeling with this offensive line, knowing what we know right now. We still have a little bit of time between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season, but we know that Tristan Wirfs will be missing some time to start the season. So a lot of eyes going to be on potential starting left tackle here, Charlie Heck. But the Buccaneers did sign 2 offensive linemen. They signed 6th-year guard Michael Jordan and 1st-year offensive tackle Tyler McClellan. Jordan most recently started 11 games for the Patriots last year, and McClellan spent his 2024 rookie season on the Chargers injured reserve list. Jordan is 6'6", 312. Michael Jordan, not quite the guard that you were thinking of before, but he has 40 career starts and 67 games played for the Bengals, Panthers, and Patriots. He was a 4th-round pick in 2019 out of Ohio State. Started 19 games over at left guard his first 2 seasons. He was waived before the start of the 2021 season and claimed by Carolina. In 2 seasons with the Panthers, he appeared in 28 games with 10 starts. After spending most of the 23 season on Green Bay's practice squad, he landed in New England last season and spent the majority of the season starting at left guard. So Michael Jordan, more so than McClellan here, has starting chops, and that's going to be a big thing when you talk about value depth for this Buccaneers offensive line. There's not a ton to say about McClellan just because he doesn't have that much experience. He spent his rookie season injured, so really the Bucs are going to be the first chance for him to get a go at NFL action. But Rock, I'll have you take this one first.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on where the offensive line is? Obviously Tristan Wirfs going to miss at least the first 4 games of the season is the impression right now. Could be more, could be less, I guess. But he's going to miss some time, and people don't feel great about Charlie Heck. I don't know how much these signings are going to change people's minds, but they will add some veteran depth, if you will.
So, okay. Tristan Wirfs was walking by me 2 days ago. He had the crutches. And I said, hey, man, you hanging? I'm hanging. And I said, and he goes, I'm going to be good. I said, you going to be good? He goes, I'm going to be fine. And he gave me a fist bump. Then I saw him the next day. He was hardly putting any pressure on that thing. So I think he's going to be coming back. And don't rush him. Don't rush him. You're going to need him. I think he's going to be okay. Charlie Heck, they've been bringing in a lot of guys behind the scenes that they're working out. Okay. And in the first couple of days of practice, Bowles would always say, he's our starting guy for now. We're still looking. So that tells you right there. But when we talk to Baker, he's like, look, we got it done when Luke Gedeke was out. We know what we're doing. Grizzard is very smart. He may have to bring in 2 tight ends. They did that when it went to Justin School, and he was filling in for Gedeke. So trust in Grizzard. It's going to be up to him to scheme because of Charlie Heck at the left tackle position. Baker doesn't seem like he's concerned. He thinks they'll be okay, but it's a big drop-off. It's a big question mark. It is a big question mark to me. On the first day of Pats, like Graham Barton, he was getting pushed back. I just think it was the first day of Pats for the offense. They were getting used to it. Defense was ahead. But when I talked to Mock, I've talked to him. Bredesen, they gave Bredesen a deal. Bredesen was really kind of a journeyman before he got here. They have one of the best offensive line coaches in NFL people, not being a homer, not people here in Tampa Bay. NFL people have told me Kevin Carberry and his assistant are the best. They helped Graham Barton get to where he was in just his first year. They helped Cody Mock take that next step. They helped Bredesen to get to where he is. So now it's going to be on Kevin Carberry. Can they work that magic with Charlie Heck? That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I'm not that concerned about the offensive line, just because I do trust, guys like Kevin Carberry and stuff like that to get these guys into shape. I trust the other guys that they have along the offensive line, right? Luke Gedeke has been really good. Barton had a good rookie season. He wasn't like fantastic, but he was good. Cody Malk really had a big improvement from year 1 to year 2. And like you said, Rock, Ben Bredesen, it was really, I think, not talked about enough last year for how good he was. And obviously, yes, this offense is in a worse spot without Tristan Wirfs. You could argue that Tristan Wirfs is the best player on the team overall. You can make that argument. So, yes, they're going to be worse off without him while they are without him. That being said, I do think there's a few benefits. One of the benefits, I think, is that, just like Rock said, you can sort of plan this now. You can bring some tight ends in. This isn't, oh my God, he went down in week 3. What are we going to do? No, they have the entire training camp right now to sort of figure out how they want to do this and how they're going to plan for, let's say he's going to miss 3 games. Okay, well, you can look at exactly, and most of the time, to start the season at least, those guys that are in the starting lineups for the opposing teams, they're not going to be hurt. They're most likely still going to be there, right? So you can look at the pass rushers there and be like, okay, well, you got this guy and this guy here. All right, well, how are we going to do this? You can sort of scheme it up that way. So I think that's a benefit there. Another benefit is for Charlie Heck personally is that I think, he can gel with that offensive line, right? He's not just thrown into that spot there where, offensive line, that's like it's got to be glued together basically, right? And if you take out one piece, it kind of can throw everything off a little bit. So I do think there are some silver linings to a bad situation. But I mean, Graham Barton, I think it might have been today. Saw a clip. He had a one-on-one rep against Vita Vea.
Yeah.
Vita Vea, big boy, Graham Barton held his own, So I mean, I'm expecting a big jump from year 1 to year 2 for Graham Barton. I will be
Yeah, me too.
disappointed if by the end of the season we're not talking about Graham Barton as a top 10, 12-ish center in the NFL, to be honest with
I
you.
agree. I
I would be
agree.
pretty disappointed.
Hmm.
So we'll have to wait and see. I'm not as concerned with the offensive line, especially if, like Rock said, he talked to Tristan Wirfs. Tristan doesn't seem that concerned about it. Not saying he's
Right.
going to be out there week 1,
Right.
right? Like the Bucs, just like Rock said, they're going to be cautious with this, but I don't have as many worries. And I think, again, the month and a half that they've had basically to try and figure out how they might shape this offense without Tristan Wirfs, I think would help too.
I do say I have to commend Baker Mayfield and his poker face when talking about the offensive line and his lack of concern there, I guess, because again, like I am hopeful that this offensive line is going to be able to be cohesive enough as a unit to protect the quarterback. I think that is no problem, but with some of the defensive lines that you're going to be facing without Tristan Wirfs, if it's a bad day at left tackle, if it's a bad day for that left side of the offensive line, it could be very quickly a bad afternoon. But football's also a game of 4 quarters. We saw, against the Lions last season, Aiden Hutchinson was wreaking havoc. What did he have? 3 sacks in the first half. Finished the game with 4 of them. We thought it was going to be much worse than it was, and the Buccaneers pulled out one of their most impressive wins of the regular season. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. Here's the thing for me, and we can wrap it up on this. I think that every year when you talk about chasing a Super Bowl, building a championship team, you start to talk about all of the things that are going to have to go right for this season to work for your team. And it feels like with some of these injuries, with some of the depth at position groups, there's just a lot of those things that are starting to add up where the list is getting longer of things that I look at and I'm like, man, if this goes right, then it should be a good season. And you don't always love that. So I don't know. I am cautiously optimistic. I am very excited regardless for football to be here, even in preseason capacity. Gentlemen, we are less than 10 days away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' first preseason game, but also in T-minus 3 days, we've got the Hall of Fame game, which is always fun for about a quarter and a half before I find something better
Maybe
to watch.
not even a quarter. Maybe not even a quarter and a half sometimes. Sometimes it's fun for like 10 minutes, and you're like, oh boy.
The one thing I do like about that is it's a network broadcast. It's not one of the local markets.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
the feel
Yeah.
and it sounds, and even if it's in the background, you're right. After the it's there. You know what I mean? It
yeah.
feels good. And if you've probably been there, but the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, and just oh my God, man, there's nothing like it. That's a high school stadium,
Yeah.
really. And when they give you that aerial shot, and again, it's a network broadcast, it does feel good. Then football is back. And one more point, you're right, Evan. Like all OTAs and minicamp, big number 77, Charlie Heck, has been working with the ones. So he's getting these reps, and they're smart enough. That is a silver lining. That's what we're trying to do, Rhett. We're trying to bring you a little bit of a silver lining here. But I understand.
You're right.
I
You're right.
understand
You're
your
right.
concern.
No, you're right. For a long time, my nickname here on the show was the Eternal Optimist, and we're not going to get away from that. But as time goes by, as we've gotten older, as we have seen more
Yeah.
seasons and
Get
talked
off my
about
lawn?
more
Are
seasons.
you a get off my lawn guy now?
No,
I'm
not
there.
not yet.
You're
Not
too
yet.
young.
Not yet.
Okay.
Maybe it's
These
pure.
kids.
Maybe it's pure pressure. Maybe I've just got too many people around me telling me the Bucs aren't going to be good this year. But
Oh, okay.
I'm excited. Honestly, the one thing that solves all of these issues is just football being back. Once we
There
have
you go.
actual games to talk about and break down, then there is no more hypothetical what if. Oh, well, if they had this, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
You are what your record says you are in the regular season, and I cannot wait. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for today's episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Want to thank our good friend Rock Riley for joining us on the show, as always. Rock, where can people find you and your great content?
Yes, on my socials, on Twitter or X at Real Rock Riley, on Instagram at Real Rock Riley, and Rock Riley on Facebook. And I'll be out there pretty much every single day and in the locker room
Try not to
and I'm
melt, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh my God. I'm waiting for the controlled scrimmages like the Tennessee Titans. I
Mm.
looked at that. Okay, they're coming here. And then going to Pittsburgh, going against Aaron Rodgers. That's what I'm looking forward to. These the scrimmages too.
That's once you start getting fights at practice, that's when
Yeah,
these guys
right.
are ready to play. Things start getting
You
a
know
little
what
bit
though?
chippy.
You're right. Usually that happens when the first day of pads come on. 112 heat index. Nobody has energy to fight.
Yeah.
No one. No one.
We'll schedule it out a week in advance. We'll settle it then when it's not 125 degrees out here. Looking forward to it. Guys, make sure you check out Rock Riley and the Rock Stops Here podcast. Plenty of great guests and authentic conversation, which is greatly appreciated. Rock, we always appreciate your time. Follow our show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show. And, of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_Daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL. And check out his written work at BucsNation.com. As we have alluded to the entire show, Evan, football is back, my friend. You got anything in the hopper?
Sure, football certainly is back, and yeah, over BucsNation.com gonna be ramping up pretty much our, coverage for this upcoming season. It's sort of we take a break here on the show in the summer, I take a break on Bucs Nation, but it always comes back around to it, right? So yeah, gonna be having players with the most to prove this upcoming season. Just some guys that maybe not guys that are on the roster bubble, but guys that could use a big season. So maybe some guys that we talked about in this show might appear in that article. So stay tuned to BucsNation.com for that. And over on this YouTube channel as well, we will still be starting to roll out our positional group previews, which is just taking a look at what the Bucs have in that positional group. Going to be talking about what the expectations could be, who could be on the roster bubble, who might surprise and make the team. So stay tuned for that on the Campfire Podcast YouTube channel as well.
Looking forward to it. As you said, those reviews going to be coming out this week, or the previews, excuse me, going to be coming out this week. Just some more great content to get you ready for the season. Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Retticus, RHETTAKUS. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And please check out the Rondé Barber Show. You can find that on the WFLA streaming app, the WFLA YouTube channel, and any podcast platform. Just search the Rondé Barber Show. I have the pleasure of producing that show, and we have a new episode here coming up in a few weeks once we get the preseason rolling. Our latest episode, though, is a good one. We have got Buccaneers' new offensive coordinator, Josh Grizzard, as he talks about not only the players that need to step up, but some of the other positions that need to make his offense tick in 2025. It is a great conversation, and you will like it. On top of that, there is Rondé ranking his top 5 throwback uniforms of all time, which is really, really fun list. So make sure you go check it out. Again, the Rondé Barber Show on all the platforms that you get your podcast. But that is the show. I am your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off for my co-host, Evan Wanish, and special guest, Rock Riley. We will see you soon with more Tampa Bay Buccaneers news and updates. We'll see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.